give you a quick introduction to the session. This session is for everyone who is interested in exploring data and digital analytics, regardless of prior experience and education background, right from career changers to people who are looking to get back to work after a career break or looking for upskilling opportunities. I hope you'll enjoy this session, and I hope you're going to make this as interactive as possible. But please do reserve your questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we'll have them addressed at the end of the workshop. It's my pleasure to welcome Quinn Pham, Director of Consulting and Client Services, Meiro Pte Limited, and Richa Tibarewal, co-founder, the Bulletin Box, SheLovesData Global Operations Head. Over to you, Quinn and Richa.
Thank you so much. And it's amazing to always be, addressing people who are actually coming from a like-minded background. So without further ado, I just want to start this session with a very, very simple thought. We all have the power to change our lives, and where do we have to start is just start with changing your thoughts. That's the only thing. And I was just bumping into this Cadbury advertisement yesterday. And if you know it, you just know it. What am I talking about? But it's just a matter of changing your thought. A very, very beautiful good morning, good afternoon, and a good evening to everybody, depending upon wherever you are dialing in from today. That's the blessing in disguise, right? I see when I think about how the ways of working has changed in the pandemic world. So thank you so much to Neha Bagaria and the entire team of Jobs for Her for inviting SheLovesData to this power-packed conference today. And myself, born and raised in India, I've always admired communities and movements like these who are actually working towards providing more opportunity for the Indian women across the globe. So I'm super thrilled to see this collaboration taking off the ground to widen the impact and help women spread the wings with courage. So before I go deep dive into what SheLovesData is all about, why are we doing this session today, here is my slide introduction. So Quinn, maybe if you can just help me bring up the slides and I can, run through some content there. So please feel free to drop out questions in the Q&A window. And as already the host of the session mentioned that we will be taking that in the end. Don't worry about it. We'll try to address as many questions as possible. And this session is all about you. The capability that we all have, and we just need that right direction to embark on that journey and follow our passion, absolutely to reach to our full potential. So the session is all about you. Feel free to ask questions. And just to reiterate, we all are doing a fantastic job in our day-to-day lives, be it professional, be it personal. I know a couple of you were asking questions in the previous session also. I had a gap and, so-and-so reasons in life. So, but, there is always a destiny for all of us to fulfill, and we just have to strive towards reach to that potential. So you might be on a career break or on a sabbatical to take care of your family, or probably you're planning to wrap up your maternity break. So you must be in a day-to-day job as well, but you're not sure about what your next level is. How do you enable yourself, upskill yourself to strive towards that promotion you're eyeing for? So I think all these are the answers that probably we will be talking and addressing today as well, because SheLovesData is a community of such like-minded professionals, just the way you all are. And of course, she and data. So we are kind of marrying the two words here, she and data. And we all are surrounded by data in some or the other way. So this isn't an alien concept at all for all of us. I just probably kind of reiterate the same thing. It's just important for us to step out of our comfort zone and then trust that sky is the limit. So I think, without further ado, I'll just probably introduce myself and Quinn. Today, we are actually going to talk about how we can explore data and digital analytics, which is absolutely for everybody. So this session is going to be useful for all of us present here in this room. Quinn, if you can help me go to the next one. Yeah, so this is my slide introduction. You can scan the barcode, QR code, and reach out to me on LinkedIn. If you have any questions now or later, I'm absolutely welcoming about it. It's a slight introduction about me. Although I have a day job, I'm a super passionate person when it comes to, reaching to that potential for myself. So I'm also a co-founder of Bulletin Box, which is a media publishing platform, but I'm a super strong advocate of women empowerment. And I really feel that as a growing up girl in Asia, you definitely don't have the right role model sometimes. You don't have that access to internet when you were growing up. So probably this is the time I need to give back to the community and leave that legacy for future role models. So that's what brought me to SheLovesData. I volunteer with them as a head of global operations and signature programs at the moment. And that's why I'm here to talk about SheLovesData along with Quinn. I'm going to talk about Quinn in a while. So this is where you can reach out to me. So what is SheLovesData all about? What is our mission? What is our vision? Why are we doing this? It's basically to empower more and more people, especially women, so they don't feel lost in the room when they are filled with people around them. So we are a non-profit volunteer-run organization, and we were incepted in the year 2016, right in Singapore. Singapore is our headquarters, but we already have a global presence now. So the whole intent, the whole mission and the vision is to actually empower more and more women across the globe. Quinn, if you can help me move forward. Yeah, you can yeah, that's okay. Thank you so much. So we absolutely focus on the importance of diversity, data, and digital literacy. These are our major pillars. So if you come from a data background, if you don't come from a data background, or if you are interested into digital literacy kind of topics, all these kind of topics we cover as a part of free workshops. We definitely have certification programs. They are at subsidized pricing, but that is absolutely optional. The whole goal is to actually empower you with free education, so much so that we can bring towards you, through our collaborated partners and companies. We organize a lot of meetups, panel discussions, free workshops, and of course, since we have pivoted absolutely in the virtual world last year, now the workshops are in a hybrid model. But fingers crossed, eventually we will do an in-person workshops as well, and we are launching in India very soon. So if you are interested to be a volunteer with us, or you want to know more workshops that's coming up across the globe, everybody can join from any part of the world. We have presence in 17 chapters. You can see the list of countries. It's absolutely nothing to boast about. We only try to indicate that this is the impact which has only been possible because of the power of community, and there is a need. That's the whole point. You see 13,000 plus women trained. That's the need in the market that we have seen. And if you actually go and check our website, if you see the history of SheLovesData, every time I talk about it, I get goosebumps, because Quinn knows about it, right? Quinn, you have been with us for such a long time with SheLovesData, and SheLovesData did not started as SheLovesData. To be honest, everything just started as a very simple workshop, because our co-founder, who is from Europe, she was actually traveling to some country in Australia, I think, for a client workshop. She just conducted a very random workshop for 30 people. 500 plus women registered for it, no space. And she was literally thinking, probably it's only the developing nations that needs this. But I think this problem, or I should not even call it a problem, this mindset or this requirement is across the globe. No matter where you're coming from, you're from a developed nations, developing nation, it really doesn't matter. And if you see right now, this is quite an important offering slide that I want to talk about slightly in detail. So this is all key activities that we cover. So we have like a lot of signature courses, which actually helps you enable and upskill yourself right from, say, basics of data foundation courses to like intermediate level, advanced levels, and you have a full journey, learning path and career pathways to utilize them and portray it in your resumes in future. So basically, we want to make you market ready, job ready. It's not that, we just tell you something, we just give you a course and then you're done. We want you to be enabled enough so that you can actually sit in a room full of people and be proud of yourself. So, there are a lot of meetups, panel discussions, leadership series. It's not about just being technically, capable. It's about how do you market yourself? How do you tell your story when you are in a networking room? How do you actually eye for that women leadership role? So I think these are the things we really, really cater to, and we really want each and every woman. And I think this is an Asian market that I'm addressing most of it. I literally feel that, it's my market. And I just try to kind of re-emphasize that please, even if not SheLovesData, you look out for options. There's just no limit. There are so many communities, and all thanks to Jobs for Her, actually, communities like these collaborate and then widen the impact is very important. So these are some high level stats of where our presence, what kind of people come to our workshop. Industry is no barrier, language is no barrier. We even SheLovesData too. So to be very honest, we invite everybody, but the entire mission and the goal is to enable women, more and more women around it. And so that's the goal. This is our community. If you have any questions, please feel free to keep asking. And these are some stats which you can always, have a look later as well. These are the different job levels that we cater. These are some dashboard numbers. And all of these numbers are actually prepared by our internal volunteer teams who are passionate about data. And they kind of upskill themselves during the course of their volunteering venture with SheLovesData, which is fantastic to see. So that's how we kind of make each other capable with this beautiful sisterhood. So please follow us on all our social media channels, and we can always kind of keep you posted with what's happening. You can pull out your camera and just scan the QR code. And I think last but not the least, before I pass it to Quinn, I would just say that, start now, start wherever you are, start with that fear. There's nobody without fear. And there is never 100% risk-free direction in the world. Start with that pain. There is nothing in this world that comes, without making an effort. And we all know that. Start with that small doubt that you have. There is no limit to knowing more. Everybody has a doubt. It's just okay to have a doubt. It's okay to have questions. And start with your hands shaking, your voice trembling. It's absolutely fine. And never hesitate. That's the motto I follow, that never hesitate to ask questions. It's absolutely natural. It's good to have butterflies in your stomach, and it's a great sign. Even I had butterflies in my stomach right before I started this session. So it indicates that you are ready to fly. So just what's most important message today, I feel, is just start. That's the whole messaging of SheLovesData. And probably I'll just give a slight introduction about Quinn. Quinn, if you can just help me move ahead. Quinn has been with SheLovesData for a long time. And the whole intent of having Quinn today here is, I have just told you what SheLovesData can do, right? But you need to see some live example. A person like Quinn, who has actually grown in this ladder, she has been volunteer with us, how it really helped her. What was her journey? How did she make a difference in her life and in the life of other people that she has been supporting through us? So I think that's the whole crux today. And please follow LinkedIn account of Quinn as well. Over to Quinn. Thank you so much for having this year Jobs for Her.
Amazing. Thank you, Richa, for the kind introduction. And I love your message. I love what you said about start now, because I guess that was exactly where I was 3-4 years ago when I was absolutely in a position where I did not know anything about data and analytics. I've heard a lot about it. I thought it was an interesting field and areas that there's a lot of interest in the industry about it, and I had no idea where to start. But yeah, that's where we were. And so when we were approached with by Jobs for Her, and I was approached to kind of share with the community about my journey, how to get started, and as well a little bit about our signature course. I thought that's the perfect place to start, and I hope I sort of help out or inspire at least one of you today to really start now, like you said, Richa. So my name is Quinn. Currently, I am with Meiro, which is a customer data platform technology, and I manage projects on data integration and digital transformation. So that's a far distance that I've traveled from, like I said, 4 years ago when I was entirely new to the industry and was still trying to figure out if this, where to start, how to learn, what to really pick up skills wise. So I hope to, give you a little bit of background and a little bit of kind of roadmap, how I got there, and maybe that would help you out a little bit if you are in the same position. So the data and the digital world, when we talk about it, it's always intertwined, and we can't really deny that with the digital economy being the workhorse with digital being the workhorse of the economy, and the digital economy being the key driving force of the economy today, all the roles and functions require a good command of data-driven understanding. So that means that whether you are in a very data-driven position or not, whether you have data or digital in your job title, what I have seen is that good skills of understanding data, understanding how to make decisions based on the insight coming from data will go a long way regardless of your role. And that is really part of what we want to achieve in SheLovesData. So let's look at my story and what I would like to share or talk about today. We will be looking at how I found my way from being an accounting graduate to right now a career in data, and also how to navigate the career in data, because at the end of the day, I don't want you to think about where I am today as a destination. It's not. I would never think of, oh, you know, I've gotten there, I have a career in data, and that's it. It's gonna be like this. This is my destination, and I don't need to kind of pivot or change anymore for the next, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 years of my career. That's not the case at all. It's still evolving. So what's going to be important is always be updated and always you know, upskills yourself. And this is where SheLovesData is a fantastic place, which is why I have been volunteering for the past 4 years and counting. Okay, so so how did it started in 2012? I freshly graduated from accountancy degree. Very soon after graduation, I realized that that wasn't something that I wanted to do full time as an accountant or an auditor. So I wanted to explore a few different possible careers. And so I started my first job in HR recruiting, actually. So that was, you know, almost 10 years ago. And in the same company, I was very lucky to be in a company that allows for a little bit of internal rotation. So I volunteered for a few different projects that was internal projects while I was in the position I was. And the pivot point was, I think, in 2015, when I volunteered for a special project internally that requires working a lot with Excel. And that was when I realized that we had so many different analysis that I needed to do. And I was wondering, there has to be a way to automate this analysis. I should not be doing this reporting every single Monday, you know, doing the same process, doing the same kind of KPI reporting and repeating this process. So that's when I started learning more about Excel, just simple Excel, right? But that's why I looked into the data and analytics field a little bit more. And that's when I really was overwhelmed with, well, what's R, what's Python, what is visualization? There are so many different things if you just type digital analytics or data analytics. So that was quite overwhelming to begin with. Now, but I persisted on, right? So just one by one, I first started with learning a little bit more about the different Excel functions. Then I looked into some self-learn some courses on Coursera and edX on statistics and Python and R. I liked R a little bit more, so I took a few more R courses. And around the same time, I actually moved into a more internal operation role with the same team, with the same company, even more Excel. And that was when I chanced upon SheLovesData. And I have to say that at that point of time, I already self-learned a few courses, but that took a lot of time because I was learning by myself. I didn't really have a very good roadmap, like, you know, once I learned this course, what's next? How can I extend the skills further? How can I use my, you know, Excel or R skill into something practical? So that's when I was looking actually just for a community of you know, of data practitioner. And I was surprised because, you know, at that point of time, we could so easily find some community about technology, about software engineers, software developers, but data specifically, I really couldn't find any community like that. SheLovesData, back then it was called Data Girls, was the only one that I could find. So, you know, so I went to the website and it was just nice that they were running some courses in, you know, early, I think late 2017, they were running some very basic intro to data courses. I reached out to the founder, Yana, and I was asking, hey, is there any more courses coming? I would like to get more involved in the community. Is there any way that I could help and be involved? And that I have to say, that was the turning point of my career, because just, taking the courage to go and tell someone that, hey, I have zero experience, but I would like to help and I would like to learn. That took a lot of courage for me, but that was also the point where it really changed everything, because at the same time, Iana was hiring for her own company, that is Meiro, the company that I'm working with right now, and she was also looking for instructor for SheLovesData. So around the same time, I really took on so many different roles. I was helping and volunteering with SheLovesData to help out with the operational aspect of running their courses. I was also starting with a new technology company that is Meiro, as a foundational role as a junior analyst. So I was very open and honest to say that, hey, I do not have any working experience. All I have is some very basic skills that I picked up from a few online courses, but here's what I can do. So they actually asked me to build, as an interview stage, they actually asked me to build a dashboard to did some analysis and build a dashboard to represent the sales reporting of of a company. So what I did was that instead of just sending only the dashboard, I actually proposed that, hey, let's do a call. Let me walk you through my thinking process. You ask for a dashboard. Here's what it is. But also, I think that besides the KPI that you asked for, here are the few things that we can add on. And again, I was really stressing the fact that even though I didn't have any relevant working experience at that point, but I really picked up, back then it was Tableau. I really picked up Tableau in a short time. So I could be a really quick learner. So I really was trying to persuade them to give me a chance to really try in this job. And I got the role as a junior analyst. So they really liked my, project management experience. So we had a hybrid role, analyst and project management. So that was really, the start of my career, and we really started from there. Now, how it went from there. So this is where I'm saying that getting the job and getting into the industry is really not the destination. It's a new beginning. So from then on, there's still a lot more into growing in the job. So in the entire of 2018, I started as a junior business analyst, and I was doing a lot of dashboarding, presenting insights to the client. So the picture that you see on the top left is where we actually went to the client side. That was the dashboard that I personally built. And we were actually consulting the clients on how they should look at their reporting performance and stuff like that. So that was really exciting to be able to, go within a few months from knowing nothing about the industry to sitting in the same room with the client and really understanding their business and giving them some advice about how they should be defining their KPI. That was really exciting. And at the same time, I realized that the best way to learn is actually to teach. So even though I was still learning on the way, I actually volunteered to be a SheLovesData instructor, and really just started with just a small part to do a presentation for a small half an hour, and then the next event we went to 2 hours, and then the next event we went to half a day, and then a full day workshop by myself. So that really was also for me the progression of my learning and my contribution back to the industry. Moving on to 2019, this is where my role really bloomed a little bit, where I started to, by myself, lead the entire integration project and putting the pieces together from, the requirement gathering with our client to working with our team to translate that business requirement to the technical requirement of the data integration project. At the same time, I was required to actually pick up the domain knowledge in a very short time. So while the courses that I took really taught me about how to build a Power BI or Tableau dashboard, or how to use Excel or even R to do one type of analysis. So that's what I learned on these courses. But in the job itself, I really needed to understand the entire domain of advertising technology and marketing technology, marketing automation, which is the domain that our company operate a lot on. So I really have to say that the domain knowledge really makes a big difference in propelling you from like an expert in a specific area and doing some reports to being able to do a lot of consulting and lifting your role up into a more consultative role, and also being able to provide even more value to your company and your clients. At the same time, I was also leveling up in my SheLovesData involvement. And so I was actually tasked to run the entire signature SheLovesData workshop. So that's a one-day workshop. Back then, we still were able to do a full-day training. So on the left, the picture that you see was me running a workshop for 100 people in a room. And that was super exciting because even though I was in the position of explaining these things that I just had the opportunity to learn a little bit earlier than the participants. So I was able to teach the participants on these basic foundational ideas of data analytics and SQL and visualization. But even for me, each of these workshops are always learning opportunities because I'm always asked questions that just push me out of my comfort zone a little bit. And I always have some inspiration to come back and to learn deeper about a specific area that I felt like, my knowledge maybe wasn't really deep enough. So, if you're asking me, what is the best way to learn? My advice is always, find somebody that you can teach, that you can explain a concept to, because that's the best way for you to realize that, hey, there's, you only when you really understand very deeply about something, then you are able to really teach and explain it to a complete beginner, right? So that for me was also really interesting. And moving forward in 2020 and 2021, obviously we could not do a lot of in-person workshop, but I continue to help with SheLovesData by helping with developing different content for the courses. And that was a new challenge altogether. And at the same time, even though I was actually developing content for some technical courses, I myself was undergoing SheLovesData's other courses in soft skills and emotional intelligence, which I found super helpful in my personal day-to-day job. And I'll explain to you why, right? In my role personally, I was actually once more moved up to a management role where I was even moving some analysts. So that experience of being an analyst myself was really helpful in understanding and helping my analyst who was reporting to me to really perform in their job. So again, this entire journey for me was about so much that is so much to learn. And if I could consolidate that into a few key points, I would have to say, first of all, follow your curiosity and just try out different things, allocate your time to try out different things. How did I know that I would end up in data analytics? How did I know that this company, which is a entirely new startup in technology, would be the right company for me? How did I know that SheLovesData, back then, just a growing community, is something that was worthwhile for me to invest my time and my effort to support the community? I really didn't know. I did not know, but I was curious and I wanted to try. And I knew that I just wanted to explore wherever my curiosity took me. So that's where I went. Right. Second thing, like I said before, teaching is the best way for you to learn because it forces you to think deeply about the foundational aspect of everything, and therefore really be able to explain in a very simple and easy to understand way to the beginners. Right. Next thing, really ask for what you want. I would never have been where I am today if at that point of time I had the mindset of, well, if only I learned another skill, if only I had another project under my belt, then I would be ready to apply for a job. Because the fact is, you are never really fully ready. And at that point of time, start where you are, learn what you are curious to learn, explore where you there's the kind of skill set that gives you a lot of energy and a lot of passion, and start applying for jobs. The worst that can happen is that the employer will say, hey, we don't think that you are ready right now. This is what is missing. You don't have these skills ABC. And that's a good feedback, right? Because then you can start with, okay, let me go and learn ABC and I will apply again. So just start where you are and really have the courage to ask for what you want. Even when you get the job, as I did, I constantly was asking, for the projects, for the client that I felt I wasn't ready for, but I wanted to try. So that was really important. Next thing was to grow domain expertise in conjunction with technological expertise, because data and technology really doesn't operate in a vacuum. It operates in a specific industry and domain knowledge. So when you understand that specific industry and domain, that really gives you a very good opportunity to take that solution that you can deliver from a technological solution to a truly, a true business solution that really is adapted and appreciated by the business users. And finally, learning and upskilling indeed is never finished. So as I was going through SheLovesData as a course instructor, as I said, I continued to take in other courses that was offered by SheLovesData that was not in my field of expertise. I continued to take other courses online and in person. I took a diploma even when I was in the first role in the job. So that really helped me to realize how much more I have to learn. So learning and upskilling really is a lifelong journey. And that's exactly why we continue to create new courses in SheLovesData, because we believe that once you start with the community, you never stop. You will always be asking for more things to learn. So we will also continue to deliver more to our community, right? So one thing that is very important to highlight when we talk about expertise and continual learning is that if you look at the T-shaped experience, if you haven't heard of this before, this is something that I personally try to develop, and I always appreciate a lot in my team if they have this kind of expertise where they have a very deep expertise in a specific area. It could be technology, it could be a specific language, it could be programming language, it could be, let's say, a specific domain of edtech, martech, digital transformation, right? So that's very useful when you can go really deep into exploring the nitty-gritty details of this field. But at the same time, you have a wide enough band of knowledge so that when we are talking about solution, you are always able to tap on different areas of knowledge. And that includes, critical thinking. That includes problem-solving skills. That includes empathy. That includes, knowledge about domains like logistics, robotic, e-commerce, so on and so forth, depending on your industry. So that when we are, so the thing is, I believe that in this knowledge economy, you are just as valuable as the skill and the depth of solution that you are able to provide. So all of us become problem solver, right? You become problem solver. So when you learn technology skills, when you learn all of these, different kinds of knowledge, is really so that we can solve problems. So problems can be solved creatively when we are marrying, different areas of knowledge to come up with creative solutions. So that's why I always believe that this T-shaped knowledge, when you can go deep in one or two specific areas, but you are also wide enough in your experience and expertise, is super, super valuable. Okay. So in the next 15 minutes or so, I would just want to give you a little bit of, like a very small teaser in what we touch on in our SheLovesData Foundation course. So you have an idea what we kind of teach our participants, but also I would like to focus really on the kind of skill sets that are involved, because a lot of people have questions to me around, I want to start with SheLovesData, I want to start with a, data driven career. I want to work with data in my job, and where do I start? What kind of skills do I need? So, and let's start here. Your problem statement matters. So it always starts with defining a very good questions, because this is what you see is the 4 kinds of analysis that is required. You have descriptive and diagnostic that looks at questions like what happened and why did it happen. So it looks like data. It looks at data that we collected from historical data, right? And try to understand what are the relationship between different factors that lead to a specific outcome, right? And then you move into, given that understanding, then we move into the future. What will happen if we have this kind of input? What is the outcome that we can expect? And then prescriptive, which is how can we make it happen, right? Given this kind of limitations and let's say budget constraints, right? How can we make a specific outcome still happen? So that's looking at the future. So the kind of questions that you ask and how you frame the problem will definitely determine the kind of analysis that you do. So this is why I always go back to, we are all about problem solvers, right? So how we work with data is there's this very oldie and goodie model. So it has been around forever, but the reason why it has been around forever and is still adopted today is because it's a very relevant framework, which is CRISP DM, the cross-industry standard process for data mining, a framework that guides companies and practitioners to go from the raw data to business insights and business decision that is based on data. So as you can see, this is a circular framework, which means that we don't go from A to Z in one go and then we forget about it. It's really a continuous process that we keep going back to redefining the beginning, right? And this framework is really aiming to achieve a real business value. So it's not about some data analysts just digging into the data and satisfying your intellectual curiosity, but it's really about how can we use data to help us achieve business outcome and achieve real business values. So it really starts with business understanding. So it does not start with the data, very important. This is why I kind of have a little bit of trouble with courses, data analytics courses that really starts with, this is how you write a SQL code, or this is how you write some Python queries. Because the first thing that you need to be very good at when you solve problems with data is actually not these hard skill of how to work with data. It's actually the domain knowledge, like we talked about before. It's actually skills and problem solving. How many different methods of breaking down a problem into possible solutions do you know, right? How many frameworks do you know? Structured thinking and critical thinking. How many ways can you think of that your thinking can be influenced by different factors? How many blind spots of yourself and your colleagues do you know, so that when you design a problem, you can actually consider all these blind spots and address them, right? Communication skills. Are you able to sit in the same room with different people from different background, different roles, different expectation, and different outcome and goals? Are you able to put them all together and guide them through this process of discovering the actual business problem that we are trying to solve, right? Do you have project management skills? So that is actually the first step here. As you can see, no R, no Python, no SQL here. It's just pure soft skills and domain knowledge, right? So that's the first step. The next step, then we talk about data understanding. So sorry that you're there, shouldn't be there. So next step, we talk about data understanding. So that's when we really look at exploring data. And this is where you can use any level of, any tools that you are comfortable with. This is where we use Excel, R, Python, SQL, or any other packaged software like SAS, to actually summarize your data and understand what kind of data are we working with, how clean or unstructured they are, what is the level of data cleansing, restructuring, or integration do we need, right? Then next step, we will look at data preparation and modeling. This is where we look at now, using statistical method, how are we going to build a model out of your data? Given the current state of the data, can we build some model to help us actually, and what is a model? A model is basically a formula or a representation of the relationship between some input and some output. So data gives you a lot of input. Let's say you work for an e-commerce company, right? So all of the customer interaction, when they interact, how they interact, how happy they are, how much they go to the website, what do they browse, what kind of product they purchase, what did they return, all of that is essentially data. And all of that is input, right? And all of that input gives a few final output. It will lead to companies' sales. It leads to profitability. It leads to customer retention. So those are the output. So essentially, a model really just gives us a representation about what is the relationship between these input and then this output, right? This is when the statistical understanding is super important for you when you build a model to be able to assess how well does my model represent the real life? How do I assess the model and understand whether it actually helps me to fully represent what is going on in my real business scenario, right? So this is where a lot of people are using R or Python for model building. These are the most popular tools, but you also have a lot of prepackaged tools and software packages that allows you to configure this model and just fine tuning the parameters to the models, right? And model evaluation is also about understanding how are we going to evaluate the accuracy of your model. So this is where the hard skill and the statistical domain background really comes in handy. And then finally, we talk about deployment. Deployment meaning when we have a very good model that gives you that relationship between input and output, how are we going to be able to use it in business, right? Is it in the format of a software or a web page that your employees are going to enter some input and then they get some output? Is the model going to be used in some internal calculation and therefore it will be adopted by some other team, right? Also, this is where another way that you deploy is simply, it's going to be presented to your business stakeholders in a BI dashboard or in some kind of regular reports. So how are we going to build a model that and a presentation that is going to be refreshed and updated up to date and is able to, and you're able to use it to present to your stakeholders in a simple way that people find it very easy to interpret, right? So those are all of the things that you need to think about in terms of deployment. And as well in deployment, there's another area altogether, which is more on the data side, right? How do you look at model decay over time? Because a model represents the relationship of your data input and output at this one point in time. Over time, it changes. Like, for example, all the customer prediction model that was before COVID time, the moment COVID hits last year, all those models really needed to be reassessed because it represented a different world, a different economy, a different relationship between your customer and the product and the company, right? So these models also need to be reassessed and rebuilt over time. So how are you going to really assess and upkeep those models over time? So those are the kind of knowledge that you also need to know: domain knowledge, data visualization, critical thinking as well. So that is the CRISP-DM model. And of course, like I said, it goes, we go back to business understanding again, especially when we find that we need to build a new model, we need to update our model, we go back to the level of business understanding. So it's never a linear process, but it's really, there's a lot of iteration around that. So what else? What else have we not mentioned so far in terms of the skills that are involved? There's definitely some other hard skill that if you are keen on going deep into data engineering, there's a lot to learn around database management, big data. How do you manage a database? How do you achieve optimal performance, especially now with big data, with 5G? We are talking about a huge amount of streaming data that organizations are working with all the time. So how do you translate from that streaming data into very timely insight that helps to make business decisions on the fly? So that relies a lot on database management and optimizing your your queries, right? Cloud computing knowledge, DevOps and machine learning ops as well. How do you host and manage your models and your infrastructure so that it achieves the optimal performance, right? So that's on the hard skill. And of course, there are more that is needed as well, depending on your industry. But as well, soft skills, some things that I find super important. And whenever I find an analyst that that has one of these, I really hold on to them and I really try to hire them, because things like, storytelling. So how do you, because data and insight is only as useful as the story that you tell around that. So when I work with our client, especially when I work on some dashboard and business intelligence dashboard, or when we do some presentation to the client about, let's say RFM model, which is a marketing, customer segmentation marketing model, is always about how do you tell the story from this is the problem, this is what we tried, this is what we considered, this is the roadblock that we had, and this is how we solve the problem, this is how you deploy it. It's always super important for you to be able to tell a story and really engage your audience, so that people, because essentially when you work with data, when you try to use data for decision making, we are always trying to sell some idea, right, to the final stakeholder. So the skill of persuasion, of storytelling, of knowing who your audience is and tell the story and address the concern in an appropriate way is always super, super important, right? So that goes hand in hand with communication. So with the same, let's say, model or analysis process, the way that I would present to a data engineer and a data team of a client, or an agency that's running some digital campaign, or some CEO and CMO, that is 3 separately different stories that we are telling. So being able to adjust the way that you present and the way that you kind of engage people is also a super important skill for you to gain, I have to say, to gain confidence and to gain kind of authority on what you say. And finally, courage as well. Why courage? Is because data doesn't lie. People have a story in mind of how the company is performing, how we are doing, how a project that they are running is achieving outcome. When it comes to data sometimes tell different stories. And as an analyst, you will, at one point of time, be put in a position to tell people that, hey, this is the data. The data is telling you that, hey, what you were working on for 5 months, this specific project is not achieving outcome. So, it takes courage for you to tell it as it is and to bring this up to people, because, at the end of the day, that is what people are leveraging on data and analytics for, because this is to help us to not make decision based on gut instinct, but really to help to use data to help us to make good decision. So it takes courage to do so, absolutely, right? So with that, where do I even start? Because I mentioned like 100 different skills with you. So how do you start? I would say, again, SheLovesData was a great start for me, because the community really gave me the foundation courses. It gave me, as I went on, some soft skills that I found very useful in my journey. And at the same time, it gave me a community of people who constantly, challenged me and made me, give me energy and make me want to learn more. So having a community to reach out to, and Jobs for Her, I'm sure is a community like that, is super, super important as well. So that's where you start. Look at some, online courses from edX, Coursera, DataCamp. There are too many to mention, right? But these are some really good names that I find very useful in my journey. Right? Always subscribe to blogs, newsletter, podcasts, depending on which medium you prefer. These are some of my suggested one. I believe you would get a slide as well, so I don't want to mention the individual names, but try to catch up with industry news and the latest practices with this, and really practice, right? Find public data set to practice and to really sharpen your skill, because that's when you will see where the gap in your knowledge is and build your own portfolio of work, right? So with that, I hope that this was helpful. I think there might be a few questions that that I can see here.
Yeah,
so
so
let's look at them.
Yeah, fantastic. I think, Quinn, this has been an incredible session, I feel, because I see so many questions, and this audience is enthusiastic. I love you guys. And this is so good to see that, all of you have such questions, not just about, yourself, but about giving back to the community, about even the technical side of it, which is all fantastic. Maybe before the Jobs for Her moderator can ask the questions to me, I would just like to address a couple of questions which are generic and kind of asked pretty, frequently on the chat window today. So if you want to volunteer with us, I'm just dropping a note on the chat window. You can drop us a note on this email ID. And if you want to know about the upcoming courses, whether it is a dashboard specialist program or any other signature course of SheLovesData, please visit our website. Maybe, Quinn, if you can bring up the last slide on the screen so people can just, scan and subscribe to the newsletter, so you can actually be updated with all the workshops that keeps coming every month. And I know that a lot of you were also asking about the signature programs, right? How do you start your data journey? So we have signature courses, as Quinn also showed you. So we have a learning path, we have career pathways that starts from, say, data foundation, intro to SQL, intro to data visualization. There are tool agnostic sessions also that we will conduct, and we do conduct for the community. So you can just, subscribe to the newsletter so you know what's coming up next. And if you want to volunteer with us, there is a process to it. Please fill up the form. I have already dropped a note. You can even send us an email ID. You can follow us on all the social media platforms. We keep posting everything that's happening, whether right from panel discussions to signature workshops. Another common question was, how do you volunteer with India chapter? So India chapter is coming soon, but there is no stopping in terms of volunteering, because we have a global team which also takes care of all the chapters in terms of processes, in terms of partnerships and instructor work, a lot of other work as well. So please express your interest wherever you want to be a part of it. And I'm sure our talent team will address all your queries and kind of map you as a fit gap wherever your skills and your interest lies in. And of course, India chapter is coming up, and this is the support of Jobs for Her and you guys that's actually going to make it a success in widening the impact. This is fantastic. You can just scan it here. Over to the moderator of Jobs for Her to ask questions to us.
Yeah, thank you. I must say this had me a little lost, because I was so engrossed in looking at all the questions. So when it came up, I didn't know which one to look at, because there's so many, and both of you have been so interactive. I think that's the key to any session, right? To be able to connect with your audience. I think you've both done an amazing job so far.
Thank you.
And I think Quinn's journey is, like you rightly pointed out, it's like an example of why you shouldn't stop. Where, when you feel like stopping, it's probably a sign for you to keep moving on. So I think this is, personally for me, during the last year and a half, this has been the lesson learned, because of so many changes that has happened in the work sphere and at home, right? Because they're constantly juggling so many things, and it's quite overwhelming, especially for women in technology, to find that space, and then to say that, okay, maybe I'll upskill, then go forth with it. I think that go forth with it is what's really important, and to not stop. And I think you have provided all our audience here, I think, has been engaged right from the beginning when you started your presentation right to the end with all those slides. It's really heartening to see how one person's journey, really, Quinn, I mean, I have no idea about technology and data, but that was really interesting. So I think the way you put it across has made women, like you can see, they're very interested in knowing how to go forth with it. And I think that's the theme of our event today as well. I can and I will. Really, it's up to us. And with I think with partners like She Loves Data, I think we're going to really rock this space. I have
Exciting.
time for. I have
Fantastic. Thank you so much for such kind words. And I think, with Quinn's journey, I also feel that it's like a subtle reminder to all of us present in this room. No matter wherever you are, everybody has their own share of struggles, and there is no perfect way to start. You just need to start. That's it. And you have to figure out a way. Nothing will come, for free in the world. So, yeah.
Perfect. Any passing thoughts, Quinn, from you before we end the session? Do you want to share something to all our
Sure. I think
viewers?
just something very simple. I think like for anybody who knew me, like my colleagues, my friends probably would know that I'm not the type who tell everyone about my story and this is how I get from here to there. And like actually, Iana, the founder of SheLovesData, she had to persuade me a lot to kind of like put myself in front as well and share my story, but I decided to do it, and I've done it a few times now, and I'm actually still a bit like shy to talk about it, but for me the way that I see it is really it's really paying forward, because when I started with She Loves Data, I knew nothing, and people in the community, they really gave me a chance to try, and I made mistakes, right? Let's be clear. I made mistakes. I there were a lot of times I didn't know, and I simply just try to Google things and try to kind of like almost like fake it until you make it. But so and at the end of the day, I just want to share with everyone my story, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who have successfully pivoted my career. I'm just the one person who is telling my story, but there are many women out there. So know that you have a community of people who are similar. I really just want to encourage everyone that you really in your own personal capacity where you are, with the limitation that you have, right? Is always possible. I think it's about not doing it alone. So look for a community of people who are also learning. Even look for somebody who is also learning and become buddy with each other. So you have kind of an external person to keep you accountable, but also to keep you kind of go through the struggle together. As simple as that. And try to pay it forward when you get there, so we can bring more women into the industry. That is something that I value so much, because I always see a huge difference when we have a team that has a diversity, not just in gender, but in age, in experience. The quality of outcome of the discussion is undoubtedly always better when we have diversity. So that's personally something that I would like to encourage, more women to come in the industry, and all the best. Reach out to us, reach out to me, Risha, if you have some question. We would love to help and give advice where we can, and where we can't, stand to give you some, support morally. Yeah.
And I think there was another question by somebody that, do we provide help with placement? So placement is not something that She Loves Data provides you with, but of course it's a community of sisterhood, and of course Z Loves Data as well. So if we keep posting a lot about job openings that we come across within our tribe, that might help you. And I know that there are a lot of tech related questions also we couldn't answer. Maybe Jobs for Her team can collate those questions, send it to us. I will get the answers for you, and then you can pass it to your community. You all can just follow us and drop us a note. Even if you are interested to volunteer, you don't have to be from a data background. Let me be very clear. We have a diverse tribe. Everybody comes from a different background altogether. So you don't have to be from a data background to volunteer with us.
But after you volunteer, you might end up having one.
Yeah, I just completed my dashboard specialist
Yeah.
program, and luckily I was third rank in the entire batch of 400 people.
That's amazing.
So that was my journey. But yeah, I think anybody can do it. You just need that right attitude.
That's superb, because that's what we are looking for. So women can go ahead, right? We know they have the skills. We know they have the ability to move forward with it, but all they need is that attitude, right? To the proper mindset to go ahead and get what they want. I think that's exactly what you've given us today. I'm so thankful for both of you to have joined us today. I hope you've had a good time talking to this audience just as much as
Absolutely.
we've had interacting with you. Yeah, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
To all the participants here. Like, you've been amazing with all your questions. You've kept it going. You've got. It shows that you've been interested in the discussion and what more could be asked for. I mean, that's just amazing. But stay tuned. Although this workshop has now come to an end,